This is the entranceway to Oystermouth Cemetery. Well, it's quite a walk up that lane, and that's after walking up through the town. So if you are coming by public transport, be prepared for a steep climb. But this looks a very picturesque graveyard. There was a sign off to my right to the new section, but even this older section looks pretty extensive. This one is right next to the entrance as you come in. It's lost its top part, but the inscription is still clear. This reads, Cyril Donald Thomas Jenkins, son of Charles and Kate. He was a lieutenant in the 3rd Battalion Royal Welsh Fusiliers. He served in the Gallipoli campaign where he was wounded. Then he was attached to the Royal Flying Corps and fell in the service of King and Country in 1916, just 20 years. What a hero. Well, looking up this part, this steep slope, there are so many big memorials, it's quite difficult to know which ones to pick. This one is very clear to read on the white stone. George Washington Dady, 1925, aged 70. His wife Susan Easton, 1927. And their son Donald Hamilton Dady, killed in action at Lewes, 1915, aged 18 years. And beneath that is Mary Thompson Johnston. In the smooth red marble, the inscription on the base, Elizabeth Ann Jenkins. One a little further back, this is Thomas Price, a photographic artist, 1920, 46 years. And then beneath that is his wife Susan Richards Price, and she lived on another 35 years. This is one of these stones that's designed to lie flat on the ground, and it remembers Kathleen, the wife of Philip Langdon Thomas. She died at Stawell in Victoria, Australia in 1891, aged 37 years. And then beneath that, Lewis George Langdon Thomas, their son, who died at St Kilda, Melbourne. And then we come down a little bit to Gower, or could be Gower, Langdon Thomas, Assistant Native Commissioner at Balaval, Northern Rhodesia. And finally to the bottom, Philip Langdon Thomas, and he appears to have died here, 1920. This one has fallen over. It's to Thomas, the husband of Adeline George, of the cottage Norton Road, West Cross. West Cross, I noted, is only less than a mile from here. Died 1939. And then our darling Arthur, who was killed in action in Italy in 1944, aged 26 years. A large stone cross with a reef carved into it. And if we come down to the inscription on the base, we find Charles Tamlin Ruthen, KT OBE JP, Director General Honorary of Housing in the Ministry of Health between 1921 and 26. Well, just on this steep slope there are numerous memorials, not always easy to get to, but somehow somebody has managed to mow the grass between them. Well, I've climbed up that steep slope, and all it has done is revealed even more further up the hillside. This one is a angel clinging to a cross, and if we come down, she's standing on a rock, and if we come down beneath that, we can just make out the inscription is to Cecil Prudence Callard. I've climbed further up this steep graveyard, and there's an area here with quite a number of war graves from World War II. I'll pick a couple and show you some details. A.C. Maslin, engine man. H.M. Trawler, Andre Monique, 1941, aged 43. This one to Sergeant G.A. Cullener, who was a pilot in the Royal Air Force, 1943, aged 22. Here's one from the Mumbles lifeboat disaster. William, the husband of Dinah M. Howell, perished in glory in a valiant attempt to save the crew of SS Samtampa, 1947. He was aged 32. And then if I go immediately behind that gravestone, I find another crew member, William, the husband of Ella Gammon, coxswain of the Mumbles lifeboat, which perished in the same incident in 1947. And in fact, there are at least 6 memorials here to crew members who died in that incident. Nearby is one to Douglas Donald Miller, who was accidentally killed while serving with the Welsh Guards, Berlin, 1952, aged 19. This one stands out very distinctively. Apologies for the wind, it's blowing quite hard up here. There's the statue of Christ, and if we come down to the memorial, Carlo David Rabbioetti gives some more details. Died in 1981. That's a very distinctive memorial. I've carried on moving up through the slope of the graveyard, and I can see quite a number of other war graves. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and another one over there. Well, I can't show you all the war graves as much as I would like to, as much as they deserve to be shown. Here's another one. Trooper L.J. Williams, Royal Hussars, Royal Armoured Corps, 1945. Well, I'm near the top of the hill now, and on my right is the new section. I'll just pan round and show you how big this is. And in the distance there you can see the sea, the bay here. Maybe I can close up on that and just show you a little bit of the wonderful coastline. We're only about 5 miles from Swansea here. It really is dramatic. This area is known as the Mumbles. This is looking back up the graveyard now, so I'm on the inscription side of the stones. I'm a great fan of new graves where some imagination has been used and often a little image or an interesting inscription is put on. But I haven't seen much evidence of that being done here. I would have hoped to at least seen some Welsh dragons, or possibly some colours of some of the great Welsh rugby clubs, but I'm not seeing any at the moment. I do notice a number of children's graves in this area, not exclusively, but a number. One immediately in front of me, Joshua John Evans, 7 days old in 1913. And that grave is still attended, still looked after. Joshua is still very much missed. And another one with a very cared for look about the stone. Our baby boy Nicholas Michael Rees, 2014. They've included a picture of Nicholas on the stone. Well, this is the first one I've noticed with a image on it. Robert William Craig, Bob. At the top of the stone there's a picture of a Jaguar car. And at last I found the Welsh dragon. Not only that, there's a Welsh flag on the bottom of the stone. This one's to Shern Warwick, 56 to 2014. This one has the cross flags of Wales and Italy. Pauline Mary Williams, née Minoli. I trust they weren't rugby fans, because when those two great teams meet, there may have been some debates in the household. The cemetery is very cosmopolitan, and here's one to Ahmad. I'll leave you to pronounce the surname. This one to Enrico Cascarini. I guess we can imagine where his roots lay. And this one here, maybe Chinese, maybe Japanese. And this one, it does tell us it's memories of beloved Tim, the husband of Young. And a couple of memorials that tell us what the person did. Vivian Lawrence Griffiths was a poet, playwright and novelist. R.I.P. Bagpuss. And nearby is Jack McNamara, an electrician, aged 83, now lighting up the stars. There's one here that looks, it must be a war grave. Corporal Matthew D. Thomas, Corps of Royal Electrical and Mechanical Engineers, 2010. I hesitated because the shape of the stone is subtly different at the top. It's not curved right across like all the other British war memorials. I'm sure CWGC can tell us the significance of the different top on this stone. Well, I've left the new section behind. I'm working my way, continuing to work my way through the older graves. And there are a lot of them. This one is to Jack, the husband of Mabel Daniels. The angel, or cherub, with the wreath in one hand, is standing on what looks like a globe or a ball, and the inscription on the ball is Grand Prix. Although we're in the old section, there is still some infilling, and this is most unusual. Appears to be a cross with white robes hanging on it. I'll show you the other side. And we have the same image, not only on the flat stone, but also on the upright in the top left hand corner. This one has the army badge, the regimental badge at the top, and it's Sergeant William Charles Fuller, VC, the highest award given. 2nd Battalion, Welsh Regiment, 1974, aged 90. This one to Charles Robin Gibson, the only child of Arthur and Amy Gibson, who was accidentally drowned at Langland Bay, 1964, age 17. Langland Bay is just a mile or so from here. I've come back down off those hills, and now we have yet more memorials stretching into the distance. If you see just over the trees there, they're stretching up that side of the hill. And then again you can see through the trees there many more acres of memorials. There are several war memorials from the First World War here. This one here interests me. Let's go and have a closer look. Well, it's certainly a war memorial. It's Corporal B.F. Pate, Denby Yeoman, age 28 in 1918. But they've added in various members of the family beneath that. That's quite unusual. I've not seen that before. Often you get a little line at the very bottom of the stone, but here in the middle, where there's normally a cross or something similar, they've added various members of the family onto the CWGC War Memorial. That's unusual. High up there is the angel putting a wreath onto a cross, and the inscription beneath looks to be Donald, the beloved eldest son of David Williams, possibly MP, Member of Parliament. Next to it, and possibly the biggest memorial in the graveyard, that top one is a cross, but we're standing edge on to the cross. Coming down, the inscription has been recently redone. Stands out in really bright gold lettering. Leah Nora Foland, the wife of Henry Foland, and then Patty Eugenie, known as Toots Gregory. Very large and impressive memorial, and obviously been renovated recently. And the more I go into the graveyard, the more I find yet more memorials. There are thousands here. This one in bright white has the inscription on the base, to Sir John Bryn Edward, or Edwards, Baronet, M.A.L.L.S, of Swansea. And then down here we have a stone at the foot, Sir John Clive Leighton Edwards, Baronet, of Milntown, Isle of Man, 1916. Quite difficult to get up to reach some of these graves. I see a war grave up the top there, so I will make the effort to scramble up there and have a look at it. On my way up, I passed this rather coy looking angel with her arms crossed in front of her chest, and as I come down I've got David George Thomas, late Bush Hotel. This is the war grave at the top of the slope. Captain A.L. Ogston, Royal Marines, 1919, aged 31. And then I almost missed this one, tucked away a little way behind him. Sub-Lieutenant F.M. Hughes, Royal Navy Volunteer Reserve, HMS Nightjar, 1915, age 20. I think what's happening here, Oystermouth is not a very large place, but it's only 5 miles from Swansea. So I suspect that if you had any sort of standing in Swansea, any sort of business, then you would have preferred to live out here in Oystermouth and Langlands, and hence the size of this graveyard and the size of some of the memorials. This is where the better off lived. Very large angel with a trumpet in her left hand, leaning on an urn, and it is to David Lewis Evans, a chemist who died in 1903. This is certainly where the Nobbs wanted to be living and buried. This is the wife of William Henry Edwards, a JP, Justice of the Peace, of Morriston, which is actually on the north side of Swansea. But they wanted to be buried down here on the Mumbles. Close by is another very large monument on the right hand side. It's another JP, William Williams, and then Margaret on the left face. And I take back all those things I said about being the tallest memorial in the graveyard. This one is even taller. The inscription's not quite straightforward, but it seems to be Holbein John Rosser, and on the base of the statue we have the surname Rosser. And behind that we have another very nicely done statue. Not easy to get the surname, I think it's Roland, but what stands out above all else is the crest of the Freemasons, the square and the compass. And I've just walked another 50 yards and I passed 4 or 5 more JPs, Justice of the Peace. These were the magistrates, those that passed judgment upon others when they'd done something wrong. Well, I'm going to call it a day there. I've only scratched the surface of this place. I am quite amazed. I didn't expect anything like it. I thought because of Oystermouth being a very small town, we'd have a small town cemetery. But in fact we've got a major cemetery and some major memorials. It is hilly, it's hilly to walk up here, and it's hilly once you're in the graveyard, but it's certainly worth coming to spend some time. Till the next time.